Thank you so much for taking your break with us this morning or this afternoon. Jackie Lou Raia, I'm the president of Alexena Consulting. I'm so happy and proud to be here amongst some very powerful women in this entire room. My little icebreaker, my specialty is creating safe spaces and culture, let's say, creating a culture of engagement and belonging. So today, what I bring is my life experience. I'm neither an attorney or a scientist. I'm just me. But me is, I am, just a little background. I am Chinese by descent, born on the island of Jamaica with a little touch of Cuban in me. Yes, I like when the eyebrows go up like that. But I'm also married to a French, Canadian, Italian, Irish guy. So you talk about, and this is what I really am going to be addressing today, is creating in your workplace a place of authenticity for you and a place of belonging for you. So with that, I'm not going to hold this up any further.
Hey. Good? Thank you so much, ladies. And again, my name is Lasan. I am a joy strategist and a creative consultant, and I help women really learn how they can create more time, energy, and space for themselves so they can rediscover joy and align fulfillment so they can take intentional actions towards their business and well-being, whatever that may look like. So now that we are all familiar with each other, we look forward to learning more about you. I kind of would like to start this off by seeing, one, why you're here. How many of you are familiar with being in a toxic workplace? How many of you have experienced it?
Raise them high, ladies.
Yes. Come on. Oh my goodness, so many. But I want you guys to know that there is a difference between a toxic workplace and a hostile workplace. Did you guys know that? Yeah. Ooh, okay, so you are really in for a treat because we are going to be learning the difference here. And we really first need to define what is a toxic environment in this day and age. What does it mean? And if you are coming to this in the workplace legally, how do you define a toxic workplace? And we're here with an expert to kind of shed some light on that understanding. So Andrée, I'm going to kick it off to you. How do you recognize a toxic workplace and what does it look like?
All right. So a toxic workplace is one where you are exposed to various elements which are harmful to you in one respect or another. I guess an OSHA, that is to say an Occupational Safety and Health Administration definition, might differ slightly from what we're talking about here, but basically you are exposed to things that are harmful. They leave you unhappy, fearful, feeling physically unwell. When many of us talk about toxic workplaces, we're talking about places where we feel disempowered. We're talking about places where we feel frustrated, angered, perhaps misunderstood. Yes, those are all environments that are toxic in some respect. What I do want to discuss only briefly here is the fact that if you do some self-reflection, you may find you are the toxin in the environment. But I'm not saying that is the case in every instance, but I do think we all need to be challenged to have that little bit of self-reflection. When we are talking about a hostile work environment, we're talking about something that is better defined legally than the amorphous toxic environment, because everyone finds different things toxic, for example. But a hostile work environment has three things that define it, and I call them a recipe for disaster. That's when you are exposed to unwelcome conduct. You didn't solicit it, you don't appreciate it, it aggravates you in some way. And it's unwelcome conduct that relates to or is triggered by a legally protected characteristic. What are those? Those are characteristics that are protected by legislation, both state and federal, that says you cannot mistreat or treat people differently and negatively based on their race, sex, gender, religion, disability, age. There are several. And Furthermore, even more under state law than under federal law. I won't bore you with the entire list, but there are several protections afforded each one of us here, regardless of gender, race, for example. Everyone here has legally protected characteristics. If you are being treated negatively and hostilely on the bases of any of those characteristics, that can create a hostile work environment if the conduct to which you are exposed is so pervasive or so serious, so severe, that it would be considered hostile and abusive by the reasonable person, the famed reasonable person under the law. We all know that person, right? Well, in any event, it's the standard, the threshold at which they say, come on, this is unwarranted and no one should be expected to work under this set of circumstances. So that is a hostile work environment. And as you see, it's a smaller and serious subset of the top.
Oh my goodness. That was so informative. How many of you had pen and paper ready? Did you guys take notes? Oh, I see notes. I have a couple of follow-up questions, and I'm sure that you all do as well. So at the end of this discussion, we'll definitely open the floor for Q&A. But to your point of these standards, where are these magical standards? How do we even know what to measure them against? Because so many people could define the point to which the seriousness is in different ways as well. So how would someone know, well, your version of serious isn't my same version of serious? How do you navigate that?
Well, that's a good point. And I think that is why legislators as well as the judiciary have attempted to take the laws that prohibit workplace harassment and the creation of a hostile work environment and put some meat on those bones and help us flesh out and better understand what we're talking about in those contexts. So, for example, the EEOC provides guidance, as does New Jersey's Division on Civil Rights. They provide guidance to help you understand the federal anti-discrimination laws and the New Jersey law against discrimination, respectively, and understand what rises to the threshold of a hostile work environment. When is conduct so severe that it triggers liability, which is to say monetary and legal responsibility on the part of employers who, if you weren't aware, are required by law, by virtue of the laws I just referenced, to prohibit and to protect employees from hostile work environments. They have a legal obligation to do so. You too, as employees, have an obligation, and that is to let employers know if you're being subject to such an environment, because they can't read minds. But I will say the severity is enhanced if a manager is engaging in the hostile conduct, or conversely, is ignoring it, is observing and ignoring it, and failing to undertake his or her responsibility to address it. So those two entities, the EEOC, the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, and the guidances that each of those organizations generate do help people better understand their rights and their responsibilities under those laws.
Thank you so much, Andrée. And I really appreciate that you began to touch on management, because how many of you here have dealt with a manager who was a part of the hostile experience? Raise your hands. Raise them high. Let's own it, right? Because it exists. But then I do believe there's a question of how do you then navigate that conversation when your superior is the one who is dishing the toxic and hostile behavior. So Howeda, I'd like to toss this to you so you can share a little bit about your experience and how we can do that.
Absolutely. So we were just talking about how many of us have experienced where our managers were actually contributing towards that kind of a toxic environment. But let me ask you, how many of us here are leaders and managers in this room? majority of us, right? We don't have to have direct reports. We don't have to report to someone in some shape or form if you're running your own business. Each one of us is an example. Each one of us is a leader. So, as a manager, it is your responsibility. It is our responsibility to make sure we bring that inclusion. And I'm getting to a point here. When you feel that you're not included in certain conversations where you felt that you could have been very productive, you could have contributed towards that conversation, I consider that a toxic environment. Every time I raise my hand and I'm not given an opportunity to express or share what I have to, I consider that a toxic environment. We all have bad Mondays. We all have challenging weeks and disappointing months as well. But that does not mean that you are in a toxic work environment. However, if I do not want to show up to work on a Friday because there is a specific group of individuals that are saying something that I'm not liking, they're talking about me sitting separately from me during lunchtime because I do not eat pork or I do not drink alcohol, that is toxic work environment because I do not want to get up and go to work on a specific Friday. That's toxic work environment. So it's very, very important to know. Now, as a manager, we should all be making sure that we talk to our direct reports. We should get to know them. Try to get to know 2 things about them. This is my rule of thumb. Every direct report that I have, I know 2 things about them. I start the conversation in a way, it's an open dialogue. I share my story first. I tell them how I am a Muslim American leader, how I am proud to be where I am. That opens up that channel where they know they can talk to me about everything. Second thing, as a leader, as a manager, I will tell you, build a relationship with your HR. We should not only go to human resource when we are in trouble. We should not walk into their office when something is not going right. I've set up a one-on-one on a monthly basis. I talk to them, what are the new policies around the company? What is something that I really need to know? How can I improve? What is the conversation I should go and have with my employees? That way, when there is a time where you need to bring a topic to their attention, they already know about it. They already know that you are not just getting up and making a story. This is not only for leaders. We all have access to human resource. If you work in a company or if you're running your own company, there's always that access. Please make sure utilize that. One very, very, very important thing, mentorship. Confide in someone at work, someone who has a little bit more experience than yourself, someone who you can trust. There have been situations where I felt that it is a toxic work environment for me, and I was very frustrated, but at the same time, I was not very sure if this was something I should just bring up to HR's attention. I went back to my mentor. I had this conversation, and it turns out that there was a way to approach that situation differently. And I'm thankful to that mentor to this day that she guided me so well. She was so relatable that I was able to walk out with some pearls of wisdom, that it's okay to reach out to someone. Ask for help. Don't just sit back, but realize the difference. Go ahead.
I love that. All right, so what I'm hearing, and the 2 big takeaways that I hope you all are hearing as well, is to stay curious and stay connected.
Yes.
Stay curious and stay connected. I hope you guys are noting that. But I do have a question around mentorship, right? Because many times people may start a new job and they want to get to know people, but they want to feel like they're not in everybody's business. How many of you guys can relate? Or maybe you don't want everybody in your business. But how do you find a mentor? How do you find someone that you think could really support you in a way where you feel aligned and where you feel that there isn't some stepping on toes?
That's an excellent question, and I'm going to respond to this question with a very recent example. I applied for an advanced role. It was a huge leap. I did not know if I was going to get it or not, but guess what? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I wasn't going to lose anything. I applied for that role. Turned out after the interview, there was a gap. I did not get that role. However, the CIO of that company, I requested him to be my mentor, to fill that gap. He knew what I did not know. So think about your career as well. When you pick a mentor, spend time to get to know them a little bit before you actually decide. It's very important. Again, to the first point, connect with them. Everybody loves attention. I love attention. When somebody comes to me and they say, could you be my mentor? Guess what? That's another one that I'm able to help and give to. So get to know the person, and also sit back and think about, what are you trying to get out of that mentorship? What are you trying to attain? Is it for your career growth? Is it so you can get to the next step? Or it's because you are in a toxic work environment and you want that listening ear to guide you. So it's on all of us to actually build that relationship.
Gems. So good. Thank you, Howeda. And I really love that you even spoke about it in that way, because something that stood out to me, even as you were saying that, was authenticity, right? The ability to stay curious and stay connected is really reliant upon our ability to show up in an authentic and engaged way. And I think that this is a beautiful segue to Jackie's conversation around creating a safe environment, because when we are able to show up authentically, when we are able to be vulnerable and transparent and ask for help and ask for guidance, then that is really what creates safe spaces for everyone to show up the same way. So Jackie, please, how do you create a safe work environment?
Well, first, if I could, I just have to say, as probably the most tenured panelist here, the life experiences that I have had, both positive and negative, I'm actually suffering a little PTSD from all the comments here, because the impact of toxic, hostile, whatever you want to call it, are real. And they're life-altering in many, many situations. And unfortunately, when you've been around the workplace for so long, you see experiences, you experience these things yourself. And so the thing that really impacts me the most is, Howeda, what you said, is find a mentor. I've never really intentionally found a mentor, because who needs a mentor when I have so many friends? Okay, those friends turn out to be what's toxic in the end. I thought we were, like, how many people have ever said, but I thought we were friends? How do you turn on me like that? Right? And so that is what has happened. People, whether they're peers of yours on the same level or someone on your staff, that fine line between, okay, I want to build a nice relationship with my team, but what's that fine line that you can't really be friends with them because you're managing these people? And then worse yet, your direct report is maybe someone who you were friends with years prior to you working together, and now you're reporting to them, but they're your friend. And so who needed a mentor when I had all this support around me? Well, what do they call it? 2020? Hindsight's 2020? I got 2020 vision now. Friendships are dangerous things. They're good things, but they can also be very dangerous things in the workplace. When we talk about creating safe spaces, especially today under all the pressure that we all have been. There is not, I bet, a single person who has not been negatively impacted by the environment. Let's just not even label the environment for the last couple of years that has created such angst in all of us. Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Is my company going to survive this pandemic? Do they think that I'm working? We're all remote now. Do they think that I'm working? Do I have to answer that email that came in from my boss at 10 p.m.? Yeah, because just in case they're watching me, right? Or how do I manage? I got 3 kids running in and out of my Zoom. I got my cat walking across my keyboard. All these things create an environment that makes us feel unsafe. So what is the thing to do? And this is how I spend my time. I have some great, and I will call them not friends, they're sisters in this room that I have grown to trust because they trust me with things that could potentially be very dangerous to me professionally, but I know them on a professional level and I trust them. Find that mentor. And if that mentor isn't there, you find someone outside of the organization, potentially, that you can bounce things off of. But first and foremost, be self-reflective. What am I doing? And my fellow panelists have already brought this up. What am I doing about this environment of mine that is not making me happy right now? What is my responsibility? Should I take a step? Should I go talk to someone? And I tell you, going to HR is great, but sometimes HR is not your friend. They're not there really to be your friend. So just to be discerning, to make sure that you are doing everything within your own power to create that safe environment for yourself. But also, when you do take that step to trust, make sure that that person that you're trusting is trustworthy. And what that means, it really depends on you. It depends on how comfortable are you. So what I do in my company is I create safe spaces that there's no recordings. We're in a safe space. We're going to talk about some difficult things. We're going to talk about, I'm going to ask you point blank, everybody in this room, what is rocking your boat today? And we are going to help you resolve it. Very uncomfortable. But if your organization is the kind that says, yeah, no, we believe in this because we value our people, we want them to stay because they're so good, but there's something that's rocking their boat, I'm going to create that space for them. And I'm going to ask them the tough questions. Tell me what is rocking your boat today. And together, we're going to try to figure out how to make it right. Because the massive resignations that are going on, people are jumping to jobs. I don't know where they're going, but unemployment rate is down. I don't know where everyone's going, but they're going. So there's not an industry that I have in my client base that is not suffering right now from open spots, from CEO level all the way down. So what do we do as individuals to create that space so that we're okay working, going to work every day, whether it's in our pajamas, in our living room, or going into the office? Maybe you need to ask for senior level, HR, your boss, whoever it is, help me create that safe space because everyone wins in that situation.
Mm. Ooh, that was deep. Thank you so much, Jackie. And hearing that your point to being discerning and being self-reflective, I think that sometimes the difficulty comes in many people needing to give themselves permission to even do that. So how does one begin this self-reflection process to the point where they can then articulate to HR, to a mentor, to a friend, whoever is a part of their journey, right? How they are feeling enough to then carry it to the people that make the decisions. Because you're telling everyone here to think about what's rocking their boat. Okay, I now know what's rocking my boat, but what do I do with it?
Mm-hmm. So someone asked me this morning if I was nervous about today's panel discussion. And I said, No, actually. And she says, how do you stay so calm? And my answer is this. I've thought about what I need to talk about with who needs to hear it. It's a conversation. And by the way, my life depends on it. So if you're afraid to articulate what you feel deep in your heart that you know is going to bring you happiness and contentment, listen, it's work. It's called work for a reason. Not everybody is going to love their jobs. But man, I want to be happy. I want to feel like you value me. I want to feel like I belong here. It's my responsibility to make sure that that happens, or that I do everything in my power to make that happen. And if I don't do that, then shame on me. Because, as Andrée said before, just because you have chief in your title or you have HR in your title does not mean you're a mind reader. If something is bothering you or you see an opportunity, you might be the happiest employee on earth, but you get an idea that you think would be great for your company, bring it to HR. Bring it to your chief administrative officer, CEO, whatever it is. Because if you don't, then shame on you, because you've made not only yourself, but your entire organization miss a great opportunity, potentially. It's a conversation.
Yes, conversations change the world. Which I so appreciate that you even say that, because joy is necessary in the workplace. I feel that we've gone through this journey. I promised you all a journey, did I not? Mm-hmm. Right? We're going through this journey. We're now clear about what a toxic workplace looks like versus a hostile workplace. We're now clear on what management needs to do. We're now clear about what we as individuals need to do. But then it comes to understanding that you get to have joy at work. You get to have joy at work. And now that we're clear on what a negative or a toxic workplace looks like, what does the opposite look like, right? Because joy at work is possible. I hear so often, joy is a luxury, or, well, I go to work because I have to pay my bills. But could you all imagine if you loved going to work? How many of you love going to work right now? Oh my gosh, nice. This is amazing. We're in the right space here. How many of you bring joy to work?
I try to think.
Oh my goodness, you guys. Look, so apparently you're here because you want to know how to bring the joy to everybody else. Is that what it is? Amen. So we're all very clear on the fact that we get to have joy, but understand that how you feel outside of work also matters, and how you engage with the work that you do, and how you bring other people along for the ride. And the journey to purpose is really about helping others understand, right, in general, how joy impacts us both professionally and personally. But it really comes down to understanding what brings you as an individual joy. How many of you spend time thinking about joy outside of work? So good. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. And I think that understanding how you can bring that joy to the culture of your job is what kind of goes back to what Howeda and Jackie and Andrée have mentioned. Understanding that you matter, right? Your thoughts matter, your opinion matters, your experience matters, your background matters. And the more you're able to bring those things holistically to the workplace in an aligned way, you not only benefit yourself as an individual, because again, you matter, but you're able to benefit the company. You bring so many benefits to the organization. So I would really at this point, because we are so clear on what joy means, and we're clear on the fact that we deserve to have joy in every aspect of our life, are we not? Mm-hmm. Right? I'd love to open the floor for Q&A. You guys made the joy part, the joy conversation, very easy. Yes, Amir.
At the bits to ask a question.
Okay, ask it.
I'll go first. I have two questions, one for Andrée and one for Howeda. I'm someone who spent 10 years in corporate, who's really worked her way up from the bottom to a vice president. There's two things you guys touched on that I think I want to expand a little bit more on. For Andrée, could you talk about the responsibility employees hold to document their experiences within a toxic and hostile work environment? That's your question. And for you, Howeda, could you talk about the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? And how do you set boundaries so that you're not emotionally dumping on your mentor and respecting their personal space, and how you appropriately leverage sponsorships in order to advance your career?
All right, I will start. And with respect to your question, it's a very good one. If you believe that you are ensconced in a hostile, certainly toxic, potentially hostile work environment, you do ultimately want to communicate those concerns to someone. Don't marinate in your misery. Some people do that. And for example, when I was at the EEOC, they would come to me with years and years and years worth of documentation of all the affronts they had suffered. And I would say, well, that doesn't look so, okay, that was 5 years ago. Oh, did you tell anyone? No, because I was building up this wonderful work of art to give to you 5 years later. No, don't do that, because unless you're working in a workplace that has a very convoluted complaint process, you will lose the benefit of a claim going forward in a timely manner if you don't actually bring that claim to your employer's attention within a reasonable amount of time after the hostile events occur. But yes, document those events, because if you take them down contemporaneously, meaning, within a short time after they happened, A, you won't forget about them. B, you'll get it out of yourself so that you're not sitting around embroiled in your own sadness and anger, feeling powerless. And C, then you'll be able to bring them to HR or potentially outside counsel should you need to go that extra step to have the situation addressed, right? So if you don't do that and you go to counsel, and I have been outside counsel litigating on behalf of employees as well as employers, and in both instances, show me the facts. Show me something. I mean, I understand your heartfelt exhalation of, whatever you're talking about here, but, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I need to see evidence. And so, yes, it's important to document, because that will demonstrate and make it easier if you need to recreate a calendar to show I was in this place at this time, and therefore this manager was here, or I spoke to this individual, or I did not. And it will help better cement your recollection and presentation of the facts to get the help you need.
Awesome. Well, Amira, first of all, thank you very much for asking that question, the difference between sponsor and a mentor. When I realized that my time was up and I looked at her, I was like, dang it, I didn't talk about a sponsor. So thank you. So sponsor is someone who knows you well enough professionally to vouch for you. A sponsor can be your reference as well. You apply for a job for advancement within a company, the hiring manager can reach out to your sponsor. No emotional attachment, nothing like that. If that's within your career, you should all have a sponsor if you're looking to, I'm about to say a word which is very familiar, climb the ladder. But you know what? We need to deviate our thinking a little bit. It's not the ladder, it's a playground. Sometimes we are on a swing, other times we are on a seesaw, and then sometimes I'm mostly hanging on those monkey bars. So as we go through that playground, you should always have a sponsor so they can help you with your lattice as well as upward growth. So that's a sponsor. Your second question was, how do you avoid or create that barrier where your mentee is not, using you as an emotional dump? Guess what? It happens. That's why a mentor is there. And I have personally been through that. And I will give you an example. This was back in the days where when I started my career, I'm a Muslim and I fast during the month of Ramadan. I fast from like 4 o'clock in the morning, sunrise, to sunset. Now, I was a student, a single mom, and I was working full time. But after I came back from school and I went to work, that time fell between when I had to break my fast. Every time I went to the manager and said, can you give me 15 minutes for me to grab a bite? No, you cannot. We have calls in queue. That was toxic environment. I had a mentor that I turned to and I cried. I cried and I cried and I asked for guidance. In situations like that, if your mentor is not open to take that emotional dump, you need to look for another mentor. To all of you here, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to me, I am here for you. I will guide you in any way, shape, or form, because what you have to share with me is an experience, a learning for me as well. So thank you for that question.
If I may just interject, that may also have been a failure to accommodate a religious practice. But
Yes, that's
Yes, bring it full circle.
Said the attorney. Oh, by the way.
exactly.
Andrée, did you hear something in there that might have legal implications?
sorry, spot an issue, had to blurt.
Red flag. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful question. Thank you, ladies. We have a question in the back.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, because I feel like a lot of today has been, oh, thank you. Oh, look at that. I feel like a lot of today has been talking about toxicity from the top down. Can you talk a little bit about, I would love to hear from all three of you on how toxicity at lower levels, and up. So basically towards, if you're a manager and your staff or your coworkers or your peers are experiencing that toxicity, and how we can manage that and how we can help, create a better, more positive, joyful culture.
Would you mind if I shared an experience? So thank you. That was a perfect question, not planted, but perfect for me. So one of the things that I've learned is that if you notice something not feeling or going quite right or feeling so good, address it very quickly. Don't wait. What did you just say? Don't marinate in your misery, picking up these pearls. And so just to share with you, I had one of those friends that was a peer. We were assistant directors, and we would go to lunch, we would go to breakfast, we would hang out all the time, both in professionally and personally. And I would share with her struggles. Yeah, those bad Mondays. When you're in the health field and you're seeing literally in organ donation death around you all the time, you're going to have some really bad days. And she was my sounding board. Well, she then took it to our boss, who then took it to her boss, and then took me out of the equation. The mistake that I made was this. I waited too long to act on something that I knew was wrong. And that was peer to peer. That was friend to friend. And that exploded into something, no regrets, but a very, very big learning lesson for me, that if something is not going right, you bring it to who you think is the power of at least guidance, maybe not decision making, but guidance for you, and you act on it. Because if you don't, someone else will. And it will end up being something that might not be beneficial for you. Thank you for that.
We have another one over here.
So my question goes, when an employee comes to you as a management person and they say, this is off the record, or, hey, I don't want to do anything, I don't want anybody in trouble, but they're saying things that you need to act upon. How do you find that balance? Because sometimes they don't want to put in a statement, this is truly what happened, but they want you to stop the behavior. So it's like, how do you balance the two?
Well, I think, and that is an excellent question, because for those of you in management roles, you have definitely encountered this where you've gone out for drinks, casual, and all of a sudden, oh, whoa, Nellie, what is being said here? This is what's going on? This is how the employer as a whole finds out about certain conduct within an organization. And while it may be informal, it is nonetheless, by virtue of its being introduced, formally or less so, something about which the employer now has notice. And so even if that person doesn't want to file a formal complaint, I would urge all management to document the fact of the conversation, the fact that they were put on notice of that information on that date, and to run with it. Because as I said before, employers are bound by law to make sure that they promptly investigate and remedy any hostile work environmental conditions that they are told of. And even if the situation about which you are being advised doesn't rise to the level of severity or pervasiveness to mean it's legally actionable, toxic work environments are gateways, like bullying, exclusion, gossip. Those are gateways to hostile work environments. So as managers, you do owe it to yourselves and those who report to you to help create and maintain the kind of culture that your organization prides itself on. And one of the ways you do that is by following those breadcrumbs when someone tells you something of that sort that might suggest there's a problem out there.
I'd like to quickly take a quick stab at it as well. We're living in a very diverse society. So one of the things that I actually have implemented or sort of integrated within my environment at work, in a professional environment, is on monthly basis, get to know each other's culture, get to understand each other, because there are certain things are okay in certain cultures, the way they're said, the etiquettes and everything. That way, what happens is it avoids that bigger problem of she said this, he said that, I'm going to HR. To understand that the other person, to bow in front of someone does not mean that you're just like so submissive. It's cultural. To be able to be expressive sometimes does not mean, within limits of course, does not mean that I am disrespecting you. So it's very important to think about inclusion and diversity now and educate ourselves as well as our direct reports and employees and outside network as well, to kind of figure out.
I love that. We have room for one more question. I'm sorry, everyone.
Thank you so much. All of you are wonderful. I wanted to ask about a situation where you cannot actually let your coworker go because it's a tenured environment, right? I'm from higher ed, and when toxicity is not a culture, pervasive culture, but it's focal, right? Like, so with several people, how do you dance? Because it's not always about us versus them. It's sometimes about how do we dance together, so I bring you closer, but still keep you at arm's length. So how do you do that so that you can still work together? You don't have to be friends, but the toxicity is healed, because we also see those happening. And I wonder about your experiences where things turned around to be a little bit more positive with what you did. So what is that strategy?
Do you guys have higher ed?
All of you, you know, I'm really.
If I could, I have a lot of higher ed tenured faculty. Oh my gosh, yeah. You haven't been really out in the world for a little while. That word is not okay anymore, right? That's just one example. One of the things that I do with my higher ed clients is this. We create those spaces where everybody of all generations come to the table, and we present scenarios that are going to address sometimes exactly what you just said. Your behavior it might have been okay last year, maybe even the year before, or maybe 25 years when you first joined the university, but guess what? Today it's no longer. When people hear let's call it constructive criticism, or let's call them observations of behaviors that are not okay anymore, it takes on a little different light than if a student says it to them or HR says it to them. But if their peers who they may have been working alongside, who may be a little bit more informed as to proper etiquette, proper use of words, it takes on a little different light. And I'm not guaranteeing that that's going to change their behavior. I will say, though, when you're locked into a tenured situation and you are unable, the best thing to do is to address it head on, peer to peer. It takes on different meaning.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd also like to offer, if I may, just to seek understanding. And I think it comes back to what each panelist has mentioned, which is staying curious, staying connected, and also recognize that you get to take up space, right? There is a reason why you are in the spaces that you're in. There is something that you can contribute with your background, your experience, your knowledge, your expertise, all the things that other people may not have access to. So the thing that you may think sets you apart, yes, it does set you apart, but recognize that it's also a strength. So that's what I would like to offer. And unfortunately, we are done with our time. But before we go, I would love to invite each of you to follow our panelists online. Very quickly, ladies, if you could just tell everyone where they can find you and follow you online very quickly.
LinkedIn.
So many options these days.
Yes.
I didn't know this question was coming. I already said LinkedIn.
Follow me down to my table downstairs.
I love it. Okay, Jackie with the
I
fly.
have mints and LinkedIn.
Yes. And you can follow me online on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. I would love to know if you all found value in this conversation. Please let us know, right? Thank you so much. And I would also love to invite you to take a photo, share your one key takeaway with us online so that other people can know what you've gained of value from this conversation. But I'd also love to invite you to connect with other panelists at the other panels and to scan the QR code so you can follow everyone's bios and connect again online tonight at the cocktail reception. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.